I'm awake, I promise. Thank you, Victor, for waking me up. Let's go.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Mister, will you please wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up?
Good morning! Snowman here to all you Brock Purdy and San Francisco 49er haters. Shut up! I gotta thank you, Shane.
I mean, whatever happened to the games where breaking 100 points was, I don't know, unusual?
There was one word to sum up the All-Star weekend.
Trays. Cause we take this job so serious.
Splash Brothers, yes. Ray Allen, replace him with Steve Kerr. Reggie Miller, yeah.
What in the all types of blue hell?
Oh yeah! I know it don't sound the same. Well, let me admit something to you guys. I have been extraordinarily tired for the last, I don't know, two and a half months. But we're going to roll today and see how far my energy level is. We got Matt Taylor on the way, Kyle Senra coming, and then in a bonus segment, I'll welcome someone that helped me author the Marist Miracles. Explain more after the first break. Good morning. Welcome to the Hall of Fame officially football season kickoff Thursday edition of Snowman in the Morning. Glad to have y'all with us. Victor Locke riding shotgun. Shane Lake, unfortunately, is down due to some technical difficulties, but we continue on, and he sends us our notes from the great beyond. No, not the great beyond, the chat beyond. What the hell am I told you I haven't slept. Good morning, Victor. How are you?
Good morning, Snowman. How you doing?
I'm tired.
I can tell.
I'm pooped. It's football season. I've been waiting for football season. And I looked at the Hall of Fame game and I went, what? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that after the break. Now, I'm going to have some fun. Please help me welcome the fabulous voice of the Indianapolis Colts, the one, the only, Matt Taylor. He joins me right now. Good morning, my friend.
How we doing? Good to hear you.
Good
Good
to
morning,
hear
Mr.
you.
Taylor.
It's football, doggone it, and I'm ready for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got, training camp again later on this weekend. We got a Hall of Fame game tonight, in fact. So football, to some degree is back, but, we're kind of crawling our way back towards, football as we know it. And certainly the regular season is going to be here before we blink. So, we're in a good spot. I think we're getting there.
We are indeed in a good spot. What's the excitement level been like with a healthy Anthony Richardson in training camp for the Colts?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been really good to see him. Just the availability. You start first and foremost there with the health. So, that's been paramount. But he looks sharp. Looks really crisp, really accurate. I mean, training camp numbers are training camp numbers, but I think as of right now, he's hovering in 11-on-11 work, completing around 70% of his passes to a wide variety of different skill players. So that's been really good to see. So I think the biggest thing is just where is Anthony Richardson, mentally within this offense? And the answer to that is really, really sharp. But how is he putting good use to, or I should say, putting good use the lessons he learned last year and applying that so far this year? I think last year certainly got a good lesson in just, how important he is to this football team and the franchise. And that's not, I don't think that's him thinking that he's arrogant or conceited or anything like that. That's just the reality of, how things work in the NFL with starting quarterbacks and the nature of the position that he plays. And, he's a 22-year-old kid, but I think he's starting to understand that, in order for us to be really, really good, I've got to be at my best to help everybody else and kind of raise the level of this offense. So it's been fun to see him kind of applying, the idea of when to push it, when to back off, how to take care of his body, when to take a hit, when to slide, when to throw it away. So that part's been really, really interesting to see as his maturation continues and going into a second year after a year last year, as we all know, that only consisted of 173 snaps for him last year as a rookie.
And to see and hear all about that maturation process, as you said, when to take a hit, when not to take a hit, when to slide, when to throw it away, for him being given the keys to the quarterback position day one last year, and it lasted, as you said, all of 173 snaps. And of course, the big injury that knocked him out for the rest of the season occurred against Houston, which is the first team he gets to see in the regular season this year. How pumped up is he and the offense to know, hey, we got a little revenge on our plate coming?
Yeah, and it's exciting because, everybody has been kind of salivating at the first part of the schedule with, the Texans right out of the gate at Lucas Oil Stadium, right? Kind of that scene of the crime game, week 18 last year. It was essentially a playoff game. The winner went to the postseason, loser went home, and then come to realize the next day with Jacksonville losing that the winner of that game was going to be AFC South champs. So the Colts were just an eyelash away from literally just being what the Texans are, kind of the darlings of the AFC. And man, they did it with a backup quarterback for 13 games. Imagine how good they're going to be with a healthy Anthony Richardson and all of that. But I think this team is really hungry, and they also understand the process and are respecting the process of what it means to get to, September 8th against Houston. A lot of work has to go in. A lot of synergy needs to be built. And it's not like you can just fast forward this time and all of a sudden feel like you're ready and prepared for a huge game right out of the gate, against a fellow AFC South contender. That's, a game that's going to mean so much. So they're respecting the fact that, week 8, or I should say week 1, September 8th is a huge game, but there's a process that we've got to get through right now. And it's really, really important that we be successful this time of year so that we can be at our best week 1, which, I don't have to tell any diehard Colts fan that week 1 has not gone well. The Colts have not won a week 1 game since 2013. So they're trying to put all of that to bed and make a big time statement right out of the gate. But they got to get there first with training camp.
And the observations are going to be huge in training camp. The entire process. Doc Rivers said before a Celtics game, you got to focus, you have to sustain, and you have to go through the process. And for this Colts team, with a healthy Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor in tow, of course, you got the speedster A.D. Mitchell with you guys as well, Michael Pittman Jr. That entire offense, and of course, up front with the offensive line that's gone through a lot of suffering the last couple of years. Every step of this process from now leading up to September 8th and what's going to be a loud, raucous Lucas Oil Stadium, every step has got to be taken to get to September 8th.
No question. And it's just exciting. You've got a healthy Anthony Richardson coming back, and he's looked sharp so far. And again, it's training camp, but you'd rather have him look great than the alternative, right? There's no doubt about that. And, the defense is starting to make plays. And, yesterday was kind of more of a defensive standout day. They kind of took advantage of the offense. So, that battle between, the starting groups that know each other so well, especially with all the continuity coming back, it's kind of a seesaw metaphor in camp where the offense will have a good day, then it's the defense, right? So you kind of just take that with a grain of salt. But there's just too many playmakers on this team on both sides of the ball for it not to be a contender this year. And that can be whatever you want it to be. It can be a contender in the AFC South. And I don't think there's any reason why this team can't contend to do big things in the AFC. I know it's a crowded, parity-filled conference, but this team, I think, is as good as just about anybody, on that side of the ledger in the NFL. I mean, you got 22 starters coming back, all 11 on offense, all 11 on defense, all 5 offensive linemen return. You got a bevy of pass catchers that are back, including Pittman and Downs, like you mentioned. And then, man, you supplemented big time in the draft with premium players, one on the outside and Adonai Mitchell, and then one that's going to be counted upon big time right away in Liatu Latu on defense to get after the quarterback, especially now with Samson Ebekom's injury. So I'm just really, really excited about the potential of this team because it's ready to go. I think it's ready to compete, and every game's going to mean so much, and that's why we watch every Sunday.
And here is where here's a point I want to hit, and we've hit it several times. I know it's going to be huge coming into the season. You mentioned 22 starters coming back, 11 on each side. There are 5 men up front that have got to be even more hungry than they were in Week 18 last year against Houston. That's the offensive line. That's the staying power of the Colts offense that's going to be led by Jonathan Taylor in rushing. You got the wild card with Anthony Richardson. But concentrate on those 5 up front. Taking a look at them, how hungry are they to get after this?
Well, I think it's exciting because you've got so much continuity, and you've got the cornerstone of that offensive line and the left tackle, Bernard Ryman, going into year number 3, coming off a really strong season last year, which was his second season. So, again, there's just no weak links. I just don't see a whole lot of, to take it a step further, I just don't see a whole lot of, chinks in the armor within this team. I mean, maybe the secondary that's still kind of young, but there's a lot of proven, or I should say a lot of potential within that unit that gets you excited. But that offensive line, I think, is in store to do some really big things this year. Anthony Richardson's going to help that group because of his playmaking ability and his strength, and just his, the way he's built to be able to kind of avoid sacks. So that's going to help the offensive line. But I think Jonathan Taylor is just in store for a monster season. I think he's going to have a really, really big year with Anthony Richardson. I think that running game is going to be fantastic. I think those two have the chance to be maybe the best running back, quarterback, rushing duo in the NFL. Now they got to stay healthy. They got to get some help on the outside in the passing game to kind of open up the running game. But with that offensive line and those 2 guys in the backfield, it could really mean some big things for this offense.
Looking on the defensive side of the balls, we have Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts, joining us this morning. Latu from UCLA, the outstanding rookie, lands in you guys' lap, and now you lose Samson Ebekom to an injury, and he is stepping right in. He's stepping right into that role that Ebekom vacated and can really play a key part in that Colts defense.
Yeah, he was going to have a big-time role regardless, but you're right. Now that Samson Ebekom's out for the season, his role and, that production the Colts are hoping from him just gets emphasized even more. And so, I don't know what it means for Liatu Latu. I don't know if he's going to be a starter or, whatever. I don't even think that matters. It's all about the snap counts and, showing up in big moments, which is what the Colts are trying to get out of Liatu Latu, is just a guy that just wins his matchup in big moments and crunch time and helps change the course of a game. And, I've seen a lot of rookie defensive ends in my time with the Colts. I've never seen a guy, this polished or, this productive or looking so comfortable this early. He put a move on Bernard Ryman the other day in 11 on 11 and got to the quarterback. Probably would have been a sack on Anthony Richardson in a game. He just looks really, really sophisticated. And I just used that word polished. And again, the Colts, they needed a lot out of him to begin with, but without Samson Ebekom, who was their leading sack getter last year with 9.5, they're definitely going to need Liatu Latu to have a really strong, rookie season in order for this defense to kind of be at its best.
The Texans open up the preseason tonight. Of course, they're the defending AFC South champions. Of course, you know the story of CJ Stroud and how he blossomed and everything that he helped the Texans accomplish and what the Texans did as a team. You know, we can no longer say the Texans are sneaking up on anyone. And in all honesty, last year, given the way that they performed midway through the season all the way to the finish, which included the playoff games that they performed in, they don't have to sneak up on anybody. They know they have a bullseye on their back, and they're ready.
In essence, they basically said they're no longer a sneaker. They gave themselves away. They're like, we are that team to beat now. And I think the Colts are ready to step up and say, hey, we're the one that's going to beat you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I just think this division, you know, historically, since divisional realignment in 2002, you know, the AFC South has been kind of frowned upon. You know, the Colts used to just dominate the division, you know, in the Peyton Manning era, you know, go 12-4 every year, as those three other franchises were kind of on uneven footing. They weren't, you know, all, you know, on solid foundation all at the same time. But I mean, I think if you ask those that cover the Texans, this is the best Texans team maybe ever, or at least on paper, looking sharp going into the season. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think are going anywhere. I mean, they were 8-3 last year, a year after winning the AFC South, and before they kind of fell off a cliff with injuries towards the tail end of the season. I don't see that happening. And then I'm more bullish on the Titans than most people. I thought they had a really kind of sneaky good offseason, and I'm more of a believer in Will Levis than others. I mean, I think that his drive and his potential is there. So, I mean, this might be the at the same time the best the AFC South has ever been in terms of parity, and it being kind of a wide open division. But you're right. You start with the Houston Texans because they are the champs. And they've got the great quarterback that has an incredibly high ceiling based off of what he showed last year. And, you know, they're going to be the team to beat until proven otherwise.
Matt Taylor, the fabulous voice of the Indianapolis Colts, kicking off this show today. You can hear the Colts all season long, and yours truly, Brian Snow, will assist in the coverage of the Colts in their pursuit of an AFC South Division title. Matt, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for coming on. I look forward to visiting with you throughout the season.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Matt Taylor, the fabulous voice of the Colts, kicking off our Thursday show. Let's take a pause for a break, and when we come back, there is indeed football tonight. Can you believe it? What the hell happened to the summer? We'll talk about all that and a lot more as the Thursday edition of Snowman in the Morning continues when I find the right button. I found it. We'll be back.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kurt the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube and where you can find podcasts.
Sports bettors, listen up. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back and in our 30th year of action. With live in-game betting, incredible odds with daily odds boosters, props and parlays, fast payouts, and exceptional one-to-one customer service, we got it all. And when you sign up today and use the code SNOWMAN, you will get a 125% deposit match on your deposit. Log on to BETUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BET-US. BetUS.com, where the game begins.
Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crown they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to, I can beat up black people.
As she takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, Pacific Time Zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered a winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text. Delete!
Join these 2 football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network proudly presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday morning beginning April 29th at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Mister, how do you operate this Twitter thing or this Instagram thing or whatever the heck? You're supposed to know all this stuff. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
Yes, I invoked Levi's Stadium in that return. Welcome back to the Thursday edition of Snowman in the Morning. Victor Locke riding shotgun with us. Kyle Senra coming at the bottom of, what the hell am I talking about? At 45 after the hour. Good grief. This is what I get for trying to do this without caffeine. So far, so good. But then I mess up little things like that, which means I'm going to be heading into a printer today and printing out everything. It's one of those periods of time where I'm sitting there going, okay, what do I do next? And I thought I had it written down.
Let me have. What do I want?
Exactly. It's I got to tell you all that story. We were preparing for Brother Rice and Lincoln Way East in a state playoff game back in Chicago. Craig Hill was with us. Good God, I miss him. Craig Hill was a nut.
Yep.
All right. Love him dearly. But he knew his stuff when it came to sports. He knew his stuff. Why did we stop at Burger King on the way in?
We were hungry. That's why.
And somehow the guys put me in charge of
ordering.
Because I was driving. All right, fine. So the whole time the guys are thinking what they want to order, I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to mess with the person in the booth? Which voice do I use? I went with the Southern twang and forgot what everybody wanted. It went something like, I would like to have, and I'd speak the first order, and then I'd speak the second order. And then when it came to my order, I would also like to have, and I turned and looked in the back seat, and I went, what the hell do I want? And then I said what I wanted to order, and Victor about fell out of the car.
I fell down laughing my head off, man. But you know what I love about this show, though? What I absolutely love about the show is that when you get to talk to experts like a Matt Taylor, who's been watching the Colts through training camp and about to kick off the preseason, and you're like, man,
and the knowledge he
pumped up. Yes, it gets you pumped up to watch.
It really
the
does.
games that are about to come.
And that happened purely by accident because 2 years ago I messaged him and I said, hey, my wife's a fan of the Colts and so am I, and I'd love to have you on the show. 30 seconds later, okay, let's do it. What? I thought he was kidding. Nope.
Nope.
It's his third year with us. And I can't believe it.
You thought wrong.
That's profiling.
And profiling is
wrong. I promise y'all, all I've had to drink this morning is water and a little bit of lemonade. There was no caffeine. There was certainly no liquor. I've just been exhausted. As my beauty loves to say. What happened last night? I don't know. I've slept since then.
Right.
But the Texans and the Bears.
Oh, God.
Just a minute.
Can we get a do-over?
Okay, hold up.
Hold on.
Dude,
this is what you're welcoming us back to?
Again. Wait. Okay, let's try this game. The Texans and the Bears.
Oh God! This is what we get. This is what we get welcome back to for the NFL.
This is what we have to look forward to kick off the season.
I'm like, okay, it's a Hall of Fame game. I'm thinking, okay, let's have two contenders to come in there.
And if you didn't play in the Super Bowl or play in a playoff game, or both teams didn't play in a playoff game, don't schedule the damn game for Canton.
Well, at least the Texans
will be a perennial playoff team.
At least the Texans are at least a good team.
At least one of these two teams has a quarterback. The other is the Chicago Bears.
Right.
And you're not even going to see Caleb Williams because the Bears made the decision 3 weeks ago not to play him.
Exactly. I wonder why.
Tell me how that makes sense. Well, I know how it makes sense because he sucks. I'm sorry. I told y'all I'm doing this minus caffeine, okay? But let's get down to it. You have a defending division champion / playoff team
And they have the Chicago Bears.
And you got the Chicago Bears.
You have a team with a pretty much doggone elite level quarterback in CJ Stroud. And then you have the Chicago Bears.
And you have the Chicago Bears who don't have a quarterback at all.
You have a team with a serviceable offensive line, some pretty good receivers.
Yep.
And then you have the Chicago Bears.
And I'm about to piss some people off. People.
Oh no.
You know that wolf with the southern twang on Tom and Jerry?
Lion. Lion. One of my favorites. Meow.
Meow. Meow, lion. But why would you even want to see the Chicago Bears?
Who would want to watch this game? I'm
gonna be asleep.
I'm dreading
I'm gonna be
to see what the viewership is
gonna
gonna be.
You know what I want this game to turn out to be? I want the Texans to beat the Bears with their fourth stringers before they even make first cuts.
That's probably going to happen anyway. It's probably going to happen.
I know a lot of Bear fans. No, a lot of Bear fans plus the Midwest Committee of Bear Idiocy is mad at me for saying this, but I don't care. Until y'all get a quarterback, I'm not watching.
But
and
we
as I
already
said
have a
yesterday,
quarterback. You know how they go, but we already have a quarterback. It's Caleb Williams. Give him a chance.
First of all, who the hell is Caleb Williams?
No. First round draft pick of 2024.
Second of all, Bear Idiocy Committee.
Shut up, fool!
If you would, please. And third of all, I'm hearing Cole Johnson in my head. Wait, where'd it go? Here it is.
Use a troll. Troll! Use a troll. Troll! Use a troll. I said that use a troll.
Ladies and gentlemen, the proceeding was brought to you by the EP of all EPs, the legendary Mr. Cole Johnson.
You know what? All right. I am somewhat kidding when I say this. You know what I hope the Bears tell Caleb Williams after week 1?
You're fine.
Yeah!
What? That would be the you fool! That too. That too. I thought I had that sound. Where is it? Nope. But oh God, I can't believe I'm going to make this joke too. You know what the Bears expect Caleb Williams to be?
Super.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, he'll probably have about the exact same impact as LeBron, so maybe they're right.
I'm going to hurt my stomach laughing at all this. But look, I want the Bears to tell Caleb Williams the same thing the Atlanta Falcons are going to tell Kirk 2 Chainz Cousins after 2 weeks.
You're fired.
Yep.
With the finger point and everything, because I'm sorry, after what I've seen of Caleb Williams and his best days were at Oklahoma, I don't even count his 2 seasons at USC. His best days were at Oklahoma.
Different divisions, different teams.
His best days were at Oklahoma. And they sure as hell ain't coming up with the Bears. Justin Fields, anyone? Find the lie.
Well, think about it. Okay. So let's say in a galaxy far, far away, that Caleb Williams is an amazingly talented quarterback.
I'm gonna hit you for that. Don't do that to me again.
Well, let's say, okay, he's a great and talented quarterback. Here's the problem you have.
Stop the cap.
I'm sorry. I interrupted. I'm sorry.
Here's the problem. What is in front of him? Because I've been saying this, and Snowman's heard me, and many others have heard me.
And I've repeated it.
What is in front of him?
I don't know, 5 300-pound mannequins, 6 if you count the tight end.
Walmart mannequins.
Not even
Most of
Walmart.
them are Dollar Tree mannequins.
Thank you. Until you fix and I've said this about my 49ers also, for those of you that have listened to this show for an extended period of time. I've said this about any team that wants to compete. You start with, say it with me, class, your offensive line. You start with the offensive line.
That's where the point of impact is going to be. And if your offensive line can't protect your quarterback, doesn't matter if he's next coming to Tom Brady or Johnny Unitas or Joe Montana, he's not going to get anywhere if he doesn't have protection.
49ers had to learn that with not only Montana, but Steve Young.
Yes.
Hell, the Cowboys had to learn that lesson with Troy Aikman.
Exactly.
The Bears had to learn that lesson in '85 with one of the best offensive lines in history. 3 of the teams I just mentioned had the best offensive lines in history. Don't get me started with the Steel Curtain and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
They've only won 6 Super Bowls. The Patriots only won 6 Super Bowls. I just threw up in my mouth.
Which gave rise to the bust, Jerome Bettis.
Yep.
The problem is that so long as that line is as porous as it is, it doesn't matter who's in front. It doesn't matter who's at the helm.
And who's always said that offensive line of the Bears has been extraordinarily porous?
We've been saying that for years. We said that during the times we were in Chicago State.
Yep. And no one believed us. No one believed it. I did a game at Loyola the day before they played the NFC Championship against the Green Bay Packers. I'm surrounded by Bear fans. They are so excited and they were so sure that they were going to beat the Packers. I'm like, come here. Give me this button here.
Uh-oh.
They were so sure that they were going to beat the Packers just because it was in Soldier Field. And I'm reminded of the late, great Red Fox.
Bitch, please.
Oh, y'all didn't hear me. Let me say it again.
Bitch, please.
I'll admit also, guys, on a separate note, the late, great Pat Morita made an amazing impression of Red Fox.
Man, Pat Morita did an impression of everybody.
Yes.
Pat Morita did an impression of Red Fox, detailing a time when Morita was down on his luck and Red Fox just stepped up and helped him. And when I heard that interview and Pat Morita do an impression of Red Fox, I fell out.
I mean, he even said, like, what Asian man, got a chance to work the Apollo Theater?
Pat Morita's the only one I know.
Yes. Thanks to Red Fox.
Pat Morita is the only one I know, and Red Fox put him on.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat Morita did what you were supposed to do. Took advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it.
What are the Bears not going to do? Take advantage.
Take advantage of it. And this comes down to the misuse of DeAndre Swift.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't say use.
Misuse.
Misuse.
We'll
Matt
see
Forte,
what happens.
anyone?
We'll
David
see what
Montgomery, anyone?
Montgomery was more egregious than Matt Forte because at least Matt Forte, they had a serviceable line which allowed him to get as many yards as he did.
The only person that was serviceable on an offensive line, you remember this name, Olin Kreutz.
The captain, Olin Kreutz.
He was the only one that was serviceable.
That man commanded the offensive line.
Talk today. Damn it.
That man commanded respect of that offensive line.
And got Matt Forte a hell of a lot of yards.
Mm-hmm. Remember back in the days we had the 1-2 punch of Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson?
I remember that punch.
Where did that go? I mean, the Bears' offensive line during the Lovie Smith days was so good, they made Rex Grossman look serviceable. That's a miracle. If you can make Rex Grossman look serviceable,
You make I'm going to a break. I can't talk. Jeez Louise, I'm so tongue-tied. Step away. When we come back, Kyle Senra ranks his top 10 wide receivers, and 2 of them aren't on the list.
uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
Shut up. I already know why, and I'm going to tease him about it mercilessly when you all get back.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Join Ryan McCarthy
I became a Jets fan because Kurt the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
and Dustin Henry
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
as they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube and where you can find podcasts.
Sports bettors, listen up. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back and in our 30th year of action. With live in-game betting, incredible odds with daily odds boosters, props and parlays, fast payouts, and exceptional one-to-one customer service, we got it all. And when you sign up today and use the code SNOWMAN, you will get a 125% deposit match on your deposit. Log on to BETUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BET-US. BetUS.com, where the game begins.
Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze car.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crayon they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to I can beat up black people.
As he takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, No, Pacific Time Zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered a winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text. Delete.
Join these 2 football enthusiasts as they give you total football talk. Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network proudly presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday morning beginning April 29th at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan.
Mister, how do you operate this Twitter thing or this Instagram thing or whatever the heck? You're supposed to know all this stuff. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
All right, folks. Through a Snowman's Eyes makes its official debut beginning tomorrow, as we'll cover the Houston Astros all the way to season's end, and they welcome the Tampa Bay Rays with a shot at regaining first place in the American League West Division. Speaking of first place, do you want to finish? I told y'all I can't talk this morning. Let me try that. Let me try that again slowly as I mess up this promo one more time. Do y'all want to finish in first place in your fantasy league or fantasy draft or whatever the heck you do with fantasy football? Well, there's one person you need to call, and he's right here. We go across the border with Kyle Senra, and Senra Says is back this week, and he's going to be with us every week with all kinds of fantasy football talk. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Snowman, doing great this morning. How are you?
I'm good. Now I got a bone to pick with you.
Not perfectly good. I knew this was coming.
No, let me be honest. I saw the list, and I cannot, take anybody off of this list. This is a fantasy football list. But y'all know I'm a 49er fan. And there are two of them that are not on this list, ... yet. It's August and ain't September, and I already know what's going on. Here we go. The wide receiver is the position of choice, and we have Senra's top 10 with fantasy football wide receivers. We start in Los Angeles with number 10 with Cooper Kupp.
So it's interesting because I think part of the argument against Cooper Kupp could be the same argument some would use against Debo and Ayuk. Like, who's the real number one wide receiver? I think the big difference, though, between the Rams and the 49ers is the Rams right now do not have a tight end that's going to command the type of target share that George Kittle is going to. Even all their tight ends combined probably aren't going to hit what George Kittle is going to.
Right.
And then while Kyron Williams was getting a lot of pass catches last year, and we think that Blake Corum has that ability too, they could both be receiving backs, they're not to the level of McCaffrey. And the big complication on the 49ers, one thing I've been doing this year is tracking target share for players over the course of their whole careers for every team, like every major receiver, wide receiver, tight end.
Right.
And if you take how much the 49ers have thrown to McCaffrey the last 2 years, which is also coincide with who their quarterback's been the last 2 years. So it's double counting, right? It's okay. Since McCaffrey's been there and since Purdy's been there, they've thrown to the running backs 22.2% of the time, which is basically right at the career averages of George Kittle at 22.4%, Deebo Samuel at 22.5%, and Brandon Ayuk at 22.8%. That is ridiculous, Snowman. I got to tell you.
It is.
No other team even comes close to having 4 players like that. The only team that I found that was something similar, and it doesn't even really count because one of those guys, it doesn't feel like he's good. His career average is really what's going to be the determinant this year, but it's the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill has his career average target share is 24.6%. Waddle's been 23.3%. Beckham, target monster when he's with the Giants, and
yes.
Also with the Browns to a certain extent, 24.3%. So you've got 3 guys in that above 22% range. But even the running back, since Tua has been there, they've only targeted. I mean, last year was up to that 22%, but the average of the 4 years since Tua has been the starter, it's 18.5%. So that's about the only team where it comes close. And guess what? Waddle didn't make this list because he falls a little bit shorter behind Ayuk and Debo. For reference sake, I have them both in the top 20. I have Debo at 14 and Ayuk at wide receiver 16. But yeah, let's talk about their division rival, Cooper Kupp. And that all to say, with the Rams, the way they're set up, all the targets are going to go to their top 2 guys. And it's funny because in most fantasy drafts that I've seen so far, Snowman, Kupp is going after both Debo and Ayuk. So most people would think this would be the guy they'd take out to put in one of them. But I'm willing to kind of forgive Kupp's injuries, thinking, okay, he was injured basically from the start in training camp. That's when I believe he started tweaking his hamstring. Up to this point, he seems like he's healthy. So I'm going to kind of consider him at like, okay, he is healthy going to the year. He can produce like he normally produces. And what he normally produces is top 10 numbers. I mean, weren't that too long ago when Debo's like insane season, 7 rushing touchdowns and great as a receiver, over 1,000 yards. He was still like 100 points behind Cooper Kupp in fantasy points. And Debo was like wide receiver 2 that year in some formats. An amazing season for Debo. But it feels like if either of those can replicate that feat, it's probably Kupp. So I'm going to bank on Kupp being a top 10 guy. And I think right now you're getting him much later than wide receiver 10. I think he's going to be one of the biggest values in drafts.
To the east we go with number 9, and we find Garrett Wilson for the New York Jets.
And again, banking on injuries. Okay, we know Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year, but we also, by the accounts, it looks like he's recovered and able to play. So I'm going to consider it's going to be an Aaron Rodgers season, which very easily, clearly, even if he's recovering from an Achilles, Garrett Wilson has not even come close to playing with a quarterback this good yet. So I think the sky is still the limit for him. We haven't really seen what his ceiling is going to be. And so I'm willing to take a chance at wide receiver 9. This seems, for most of I think for the rest of this list, this seems like these are like the top 9, top 10 guys that are going in drafts. So this is kind of the range. You're not really getting a discount on him because people are expecting to bounce back with Rodgers, even though Wilson has kind of failed to live up to expectations. I'm willing to take the chance. I know how good Rodgers has been. I feel like, if anything, it's a less mobile Rodgers needing to just make quicker passes, and maybe a guy like Wilson ends up playing more in the slot, being that like easy dump off target for Rodgers. A lot of quick receptions. I could feel the same thing. So I think last 2 weeks ago we talked about Breece Hall. I was thinking that's why ranked at running back too. I think those two are going to completely dominate targets, kind of like the 2 Rams receivers.
Speaking of the 2 Rams receivers, here's the other one, Puka Nacua, as we go to number 8.
Yeah, sorry, Snowman. I put 2 Rams in the top 10. I didn't even put but honestly,
but with your explanation of why as to how the targets are distributed, especially with an offense like San Francisco and Kansas City for that matter, I totally understand. I totally get it. I totally get it. I tease you mercilessly about it, but in diving in and looking at the numbers, and San Francisco has historically thrown to running backs a lot. Roger Craig, hello. Ricky Waters, hello. Now they're getting the same with Christian McCaffrey. So you got both Rams receivers on this list, and they both totally belong because look at the production they've been able to put together.
And I mean, if you just again back to 2 weeks ago, where I ranked McCaffrey is kind of indicative of this. Maybe a spoiler for next week, although it's probably not a spoiler. When we're talking top 10 tight ends, I assume no one will be surprised that George Kittle's on my list, and maybe they might be surprised how high I put him. I don't know. We'll see. But some might be surprised at Nacua, and I mean, certainly we were all surprised with his production last year. It came out of nowhere, but it's not like he was overly efficient, like ridiculously overly efficient. He was very efficient on a per catch basis, but he just got a lot of targets. And the one thing I've always stuck to as a philosophy is that targets are earned. So for me to see Puka, first game in the NFL, like what was it, 15 targets?
15
that might
targets.
be, you're not going to see that every game, but to earn that many targets right off the bat from a veteran quarterback, he knows his stuff, and he's okay. There's other guys on this team that have played before. I'm going to the rookie a lot. That shows that Nacua was ready to play in the NFL right from the get-go, and B, he already gets it. And I don't expect a big drop, like a sophomore slump for him. Maybe not the production he had last year. I would still draft him in the top 10, clearly. And I'm still, and everyone's drafting it this way. Everyone is drafting to assume Puka is the wide receiver 1 on the team. I guess my only hesitation to not draft him is knowing how much of a value you can get for Cooper Kupp, because the truth is you're probably having to spend your first round pick on Puka. You might be able to get him in the early second. And that's probably maybe as bad a great of an outcome as you can hope for. So you've got to make the investment if you're sitting there at the end of the first, and you've got to kind of make that decision on Puka. But I think he's worth it, at least at this point.
Speaking of an investment, the Raiders made one in this fellow, Devontae Adams. He comes in at number 7 on Senra's list.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think anyone would have expected knowing how much Jacoby Myers, as much as he's produced through his career, has struggled to score touchdowns, that you could go with a season where Adams and Myers would score the same number of touchdowns. They both had 8, which that's wild to me. And the career year for Myers is also like a career low year for Adams, at least probably. I think his rookie year in Green Bay might have only had 1 touchdown. I think second year might have only had 5. But since then, it's been almost consistently double digits. In my touchdown projections, I've got him at 9, which is tied for 3rd among wide receivers. His target share is certainly up there again. I think he's going to dominate targets, whoever the quarterback is. He's kind of earned that throughout his career. So I'm still willing to make this investment on Adams again as a first rounder, who he might come as a value too, because you might not have to spend a first round pick on him like you would with Puka and Garrett Wilson. I'd flat up rather have him than those two. And yet in some drafts, you could get away with Adams going later than them. So yeah, watch out for Adams, certainly in the early second round.
At 6, we go to Philadelphia and we find A.J. Brown.
I think I would say it's tough to say is it a tier break here or not, because I do think Brown and Adams will produce similarly. But from what I've seen in most drafts, these seem to be the top 6 receivers going from here on out. So like, kind of my order might not match consensus, but at least the names seem to match. And Brown just got paid too. They clearly, like the Eagles are signaling both of them, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, are worthy of the investment. I think both, it's actually very similar to the Rams situation where both will get most of the targets. But I think, unlike the Rams, where I think there is some debate on who is the number 1 when they're both healthy, like really fully healthy Cooper Kupp, is he still the number 1 there? As good as Devontae Smith is, I think it's clear that A.J. Brown is the number 1 guy for Jalen Hurts. He's going to target him the most. I think there's some good touchdown upside there. Brown's also been really efficient on a yard basis. He's someone who can get good yards after the catch. So even on a lesser targeted seasons, he still managed to produce monster years. Now he kind of gets best of both worlds, where he can be efficient with a great quarterback, but also get tons of volume on a team that's willing to throw the ball. So I'm back in on A.J. Brown as a top 6 receiver.
We've now reached our top 5. And speaking of volume and speaking of production, here's one of Victor's favorites. At number 5, we go to Detroit and we find Amon-Ra St. Brown.
My wife and I just finished this season 2 of the Netflix series Receiver this year. Is what Amon-Ra was one of the guys they followed. And just talking with her about like the receivers, and she was, I think Adams explained the route tree, and that was kind of mind blowing to her learning all this. But I think one thing I kept going back to is Amon-Ra might be the best yards after the catch receiver. If he's not the best, he's certainly in that elite tier where it's 1 or 2 other guys, maybe even better than A.J. Brown, that we just mentioned. And yeah, getting the volume. Honestly, these 2 guys are super similar to me. You could almost flip them back and forth, Amon-Ra and A.J. Brown. But I think Amon-Ra has just a little bit more upside to potentially be the number 1 wide receiver overall. I think A.J. Brown has that in his range of outcomes, but I feel like Amon-Ra, he could get closer to achieving that more realistically. So he kind of kicks off the top 5. And I think this is kind of, now we get into the top 4 in a tier of its own. But I wouldn't be upset, or I'd certainly understand if someone thought this was still too low for Amon-Ra, because he could finish as the wide receiver 1. As much as that pains me to say as a Packers fan who despises the Lions, man, they made a smart pick there. A lot of teams did not that year. They're like, I know Amon-Ra can memorize all those names. He mentioned it on the show. I knew most. I mean, I knew Amari Rodgers. That was. I hated that pick from the moment that was made, and then to see Amon-Ra go later to them, oh boy. I have a feeling this is going to be really bad, and it turned out way worse than I could have even imagined. At least better for the Lions than I could have imagined. So good for them. When he mentioned that Daz Newsome went ahead of him in the draft, I completely forgot about. I almost forgot he existed, but that was one that shocked me. The Amari Rodgers one I remembered forever. It's still awful no matter what. But I carried that. That has Newsome. That blew my mind.
That blew my mind also. I still can't remember who the hell Daz Newsome is. I saw him in college, I think, a couple of times, but you remember the name.
The Titans drafted him, and I think he got hurt in that first year in training camp, so he missed the whole rookie season, and then a year or 2 just never came back, and they cut him. Like he didn't play a game. Like I think it was that bad. So it's good for the Lions, and good for you if you take Amon-Ra. Kind of now we're getting to the point where you got to spend like a middle first round pick on him.
Now we go into our top 4, and here's a receiver that my wife despises, but can also say one of the best in the business. You know him well, Cincinnati, Jamar Chase.
So the one thing that really separates Chase from everyone else in a negative sense is the target share. And while he's still very clearly the number 1 receiver, he might not get as heavily targeted as some of these other guys at the top. in my target share projections for this year, I've got him at 26.5%. That's lower than the last two. AJ Brown at 27.1. It's even lower than Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, and lower than Garrett Wilson actually. So he's a lot lower on the target share ranking. I think he'd still be in the top 10, but just at the back of it. But I also think there's no receiver other than maybe one, and we'll get to him eventually, that has more touchdown upside than Chase. He's got this like spike week magic in him where if he puts up 3 touchdowns on any given week, you're not surprised. He just has that ability. So I think this is a tough calculation because like even Amon-Ra you can include in this. Like these are all guys you're having to take in the early first round. Like this is going to be your top 5 picks or your top 6 picks along with probably Christian McCaffrey, maybe a Breece Hall or Bijan gets mixed in there. But what do you want? Do you want the floor or the upside? I think that the calculation between the two would lead me to put Chase here at 4, but I certainly could get why he could be higher or why he should be behind even AJ Brown. So I've got him at 4, but he's been a tricky one to rank because he is a little bit different than all these other guys that are just monster target earners, and he's up there, but just not quite to that elite tier of target earners. But he's probably the most elite touchdown scorer. So it's the balance of what do you prefer. I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes the wide receiver 1 and someone wants to take him as the wide receiver 1 in drafts just because they like that he's tied to that quarterback. They like that offense. So 4 for me, but I can certainly understand arguments why he should be higher or lower. So it's tricky.
Speaking of arguments, there's this guy, Justin Jefferson from the Minnesota Vikings. He clocks in at number 3.
So I've got Jefferson in my target share projections leading the NFL this year. I think I've at 29.3%. But compared to all these guys here, I guess other than Amon-Ra, I've got him with less touchdowns. I've got him projected for 8, whereas AJ Brown's at 9, Devontae Adams is at 9, even Cooper Kupp's at 9. So I think Jefferson and Amon-Ra are actually super similar because I've got both with 8 touchdowns, but I just have Jefferson a full percent higher in target share, and that's enough to say jump ahead of Jamar Chase and get into this top 3. I do think there'll be concerns with quarterback. You definitely won't be playing with Kirk Cousins anymore. It's going to be a down no matter who it is. I mean, even if McCarthy ends up eventually being as good as Cousins, he's not going to be as good as Cousins right now. But we also saw last year Jefferson, especially the very end of the season, once he was over the injuries, he was having I think wide receiver 2 overall weeks with Nick Mullins. So he's shown he's so special. He can catch the ball from anywhere as long as it's in his catch radius. His hands are probably the best set of hands in the NFL. I really think I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong, Terry. I think DeAndre Hopkins. That's probably the only guy that you could say maybe has better hands than Jefferson just because he's done it for all these years. But it's that level of ability to catch the football, and that's the most important thing for a receiver. So it wouldn't shock me if he leads the league in targets and catches, but falls a little bit behind on the touchdowns because of the quarterback quality, especially compared to Chase, but certainly compared to really all these guys in the top 10. He's probably got by far the worst quarterback. So he's good enough to be ahead of most everyone at 3, but not entirely everyone as he is at 3.
Well, Victor's going to really have a smile on his face because at number 2, we find number 88, CeeDee Lamb from the Dallas Cowboys.
I believe he finished as the wide receiver 1 overall last year. Now, even Jefferson, what happened to him the year after he does it, he gets injured, right? It's notoriously difficult to repeat as the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy. I don't know. Do you know the last 2 guys to have done it, Snowman? So one was fairly recently, 2014 through 2016. Antonio Brown did it 3 years in a row.
Antonio Brown.
When he was at that point, the best wide receiver in the NFL. He finally gave Roethlisberger the numbers to kind of merit him that Hall of Fame worthiness that everyone talks about now. I think if Brown was never there, we wouldn't be talking about Ben as a Hall of Fame quarterback. He obviously had 2 Super Bowls without Antonio Brown, so that can't take that away. But all of Ben's best seasons came with Brown. That was Brown's ability. The last guy to do it before Brown was Jerry Rice. So this is not an easy feat to do. And so CeeDee Lamb, it has that stacked against him. I don't think he's that level, Antonio Brown or Jerry Rice. So I don't think he'll finish number 1. And if you were telling me to rank these guys based on likelihood of finishing number 1, I'd probably put him at 6. I think he's probably even behind AJ Brown, but certainly he's behind Amon-Ra and Chase and Jefferson.
Yeah.
But while I don't think he'll finish as likely to be finished as wide receiver 1, I still think top 3 finishes in his range of outcomes. He's in my projections. He's second in target share behind only Jefferson. In the touchdown projections, he's tied for third, only behind Devontae Adams not Devontae Adams, tied with Devontae Adams, but only behind Jamar Chase and someone else who we won't spoil, even though by this point people probably know who's number one. So it's just as much like I can totally get why people are like drafting him as the wide receiver one, but man, that's dangerous just because you're tempting fate that they're repeating as wide receiver one.
Yes.
And I still think Lamb will finish fine, but I can totally get why you might want to go with Jefferson or Chase ahead of him. He's going to finish at 2 for me, but there's one guy that just a little bit higher.
And this is the guy. Let's go to South Florida, and we find the one and only Tyreek Hill from the Miami Dolphins.
In my dynasty rankings, he's way behind everyone other than, like, say, Kupp and Adams, but he's behind all those guys just because of the age. But you're talking about a one-season redraft. I think Tyreek Hill is the perfect receiver to draft as the number one receiver. And there's 2 reasons. I think it's the best of both worlds of everything I've been talking about. It's like the best of what Jefferson has, but also the best of what Chase has. I think he's got tremendous touchdown upside. In fact, I have him projected for the most scrimmage touchdowns among wide receivers. And part of that is on top of his own catching ability and his ability to just be so fast that you can't catch him. Well, that helps with the rushing touchdowns. And they're willing to give him carries, especially near the goal line at times. So he can also get some sneaky upside with these like free trick plays where he just gets a 2-yard run and suddenly, that's 6 points right there. So he's got that in his outcome. But I also think just monster target share. It's been 30% every year. Because I'm going with like median range of outcomes projections. I've got him at 28.6%. That would be third. So it's the same type of target share that Jefferson and Lamb are getting, but with like Chase's upside in terms of touchdowns. Right. So to me, I think he's the best and most obvious answer to be wide receiver one in fantasy drafts this year.
Is there any question? I mean, come on, it's Tyreek Hill. It's Tyreek Hill, and you got Tua throwing to him. I just hope the Dolphins put enough of an offensive line in front of Tua to keep him upright.
I mean, it worked last year. It was the receivers that got hurt instead of Tua, but
exactly
too much. Yeah, that O-line needs some.
You really don't want to tempt fate. And I talked earlier this week about, I'm not hating on Tua at all. I am just worried about his health, especially 2 years ago after he took 3 concussions in a span of 14 weeks. Being a fella that's taken a couple of concussions, it's not easy to bounce back from. That's Kyle.
So I think we're certainly happy he played a full season last year.
I am so happy.
It is one of those things that you might get nervous about every year.
Yep. And I don't want to get nervous about him playing a full year. I want to see him continue to play a full year. Just protect him, please. That's Kyle Senra in his top 10 fantasy football wide receivers. And he joins us every week to talk all things fantasy football. Thank you, my friend, so very, very much. I love having you on. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, thank you, Snowman. I guess we got one position left next week.
Yep, we do. Thanks, man. Why were you yawning, Victor?
I wasn't yawning. What are you talking about?
Kidding. Totally kidding. I nearly did, but and that's like I said, that's just because physical exhaustion. We had a couple comments. Damian Hernandez says Justin Jefferson gonna struggle getting the ball with how JJ, i.e. JJ McCarthy, throws. I doubt he gets any touchdowns this season. I doubt that. I doubt that. We'll see. Question: with this being Tyreek's last year playing, do y'all think he could win MVP? Nope. And I'll give you 2 reasons why: Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
On a third, Deebo Samuel. On a fourth, George the Animal Kittle. On a fifth, Nick Bosa.
He's gonna say the entire Niners roster.
Well, not all of them, no.
But it's gonna be a rough. A tough road to hoe for
it is
the MVP selection.
It is. It's going to be so competitive this year, and I can't wait to see it. Hall of Fame game tonight is at 8 p.m. Eastern. The Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears.
God,
do y'all really want to watch that game?
No.
Matter of fact.
Agreed.
I mean, I understand if it was CJ Stroud versus, I don't know, maybe Brock Purdy. I can get that. If it's CJ Stroud versus Patrick Mahomes. And they're both only going to play a series anyway because you want to save them for the whole season.
I mean,
but against a team like the Bears that need a quarterback to play the entire 4 quarters,
I mean, CJ Stroud versus Lamar Jackson would be a better matchup.
Been there, done that, called that, was on the edge of my seat for the entire game. I'd love to see them do it again in the playoffs. I'd love to see them do it. I'd love to see them do it in the playoffs. Why do you need liquor, Damien? What they say? What they say?
Shut up.
I'm going to beat Victor up. We got to get out of here. Later today, I will welcome A Pizzle himself in a live interview, and you will hear and you will see and hear it also tomorrow during the Football Friday edition of Snowman in the Morning. In the meantime, we got to go. Have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, they're simply not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. We are, and we hope y'all are too. And I'll say it right now for February, Chiefs Kingdom, Bang Bang Niner Gang. We're out of here. See you tomorrow. Dear White Sox, just tank the rest of the season, will you please? So you can get some better draft picks. And this is coming from a White Sox fan. See you tomorrow.